Vinny, it was a crazy match at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, but again, as I mentioned during commentary, Tottenham Hotspur for a 7th time this season, leading at half-time, throwing the match away. They drew the previous 6 games, but they were beaten today 3-1 by Manchester United, and you'd have to say they deserved it.
Yeah, I thought Manchester United, particularly that second half, were really, really good, got on top of the game. They looked leggy in the first half. It's funny, I have a bit of sympathy for Mourinho. I thought at half-time his team had done really well. They deserved to be in the lead. They'd pushed Manchester United back. They'd won a lot of those 50-50s in the middle of the field, and I thought, there's no way you could say at half-time that team wasn't playing for José Mourinho. But the second half was that bad. It lacked intensity, it lacked everything, and the manager's substitutions weren't good enough either. Lacked a little bit of drive, and very disappointing in Spurs in that second half. But United, to be fair to Solskjaer, turned around at half time, further up the pitch, and I want to see more of this from Manchester United. Wan-Bissaka's starting position was probably 20 yards higher up the pitch. The 2 occasions he crossed the ball and Shaw was on the end of it, and Shaw crossed the ball and Wan-Bissaka is on the end of it. So you've got to get fullbacks if you're going to win games of football. It's a big argument going on in football, but fullbacks for me of Manchester United are a little bit too conservative at times, good defensively, but we've seen more of that today from them. And I think Solskjaer's record away from home is outstanding. That's 23 unbeaten. Deserves huge credit for it, and Mourinho deserves the criticism that comes his way now. It's hard to defend him. Yeah,
we'll come back to United in a moment. What were the kind of key mistakes you saw Tottenham make in that second half that saw them lose by 2 goals after leading by 1 at half time?
Well, I suppose in the first half they had Lo Celso in midfield, who did work really hard for the team, but Højbjerg and Dembele gave them a real platform. They were excellent, and Aurier and Reguilon in full-back positions did get forward and join in, but they just lost that midfield battle. The two of them, Højbjerg and Dembele, went out of game, and he took off, and he seen it, to be fair, and he brought on Sissoko, but he took off Lo Celso, and they just lost all sort of creativity in midfield then, and lost the battle on top of that. So both things went against him. And then Lucas Moura, we seen it in commentary, you remarked on it, I did, his legs went from him. And you've Gareth Bale sitting on the bench, and he brought Gareth Bale on the 82nd minute. Surely Gareth Bale could have injected a bit of pace into the team, something a little bit different, and he didn't do it. And then he's had a real problem at right full all season. Matt Doherty, to be fair, has been part of that problem. And Cavani's just allowed ghost in. It's good movement by Cavani, but Aurier's positional sense on the goal for Cavani is terrible. And they've been punished. And Spurs are a shadow of what they were earlier on in the season.
We saw him last week. He put all the blame on the players, not for the first time this season. But we also see in his team selections, like he brings in Dyer and Rodon today. We know there's been a bit of an issue there with Alderweireld, because a couple of weeks ago he said that Alderweireld didn't turn up for a COVID test, couldn't train before the Newcastle match, but it turned out then there was footage of him that he did train before the Newcastle match. So there's obviously an issue there. He seems to lose faith in players so quickly with this Tottenham squad, and it just seems that Mourinho is just, he's making a rod for his own back, that he's really cutting his nose off to spite his face, falling out with players, and that's just not going to help you when you're trying to get into top 4 at least. We thought they were going to be in a title race earlier in the season, but it almost seems that Mourinho's just made all these issues himself.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of his. You don't achieve what he's achieved without having something about you. If you go back to the first Chelsea team, I spoke to some of the Chelsea players at an event, and they love him and they die for him and all of that stuff. He's lost that bit of spark with players. The modern day player is different, I thought, and he spoke about when he went into Sky and tried to understand the game, and he tried to understand different things, and he'd done his punditry. He spoke about being a different person when he took out, and I was really, and personally he's been good to me. He reached out to me a couple of years ago after a Champions League game, and so I was really rooting for him, but I can't defend his behaviour. I can't defend the way he's treated players. Dele Alli came into the team a couple of weeks ago and done really well for them, left him in the team, and then he had that really bad result against Dinamo Zagreb,
yeah.
The 3-0, and you look at the goalkeeper for the last goal, he should save it. And people say players down tools for managers. I don't agree with that to I find that's a lazy comment, but managers have to inspire players into good performances, and he's not doing it. And as I said, leaving Gareth Bale sitting on your bench when Moore's legs are gone, he doesn't look like Mourinho of old. And
it's funny. I'm making this comparison. I felt there's been echoes of Giovanni Trapattoni and Martin O'Neill when they were in charge of Ireland, because he seems to be complaining a lot about the quality of player at Tottenham Hotspur, and this is despite the fact when he went in and took the job, he said he was delighted with the squad that he had, that he really felt he could really do great things with them. But now he's talking them down, and it seems a bit like that, as we've had so many times with Irish players over the last couple of years with different managers. You know, when players are being talked down so much in the media, eventually they're going to start, either giving up playing or else just believing what the manager's saying about them.
Yeah, well, listen, players read media and they hear all them sound bites, and I think the key to any manager is, can you make a footballer better? Any coach, and you would have to say who's improved under Mourinho this year? Almost nobody. And for me, that's his biggest criticism you can aim at him. When you look at Man City, you look at Foden, you look at De Bruyne, you look at Liverpool, you look at Trent, you look at Robinson. Players improve under good managers. You look at even West Ham, Antonio. You look at so many of the West Ham players have improved.
Leicester City's own Brendan Rodgers.
The improved players. And José hasn't improved any. Even when they were top of the season, yes, Son and Kane were playing really, really well, but he's not making people better. And as a coach, if you're not making players better, you're struggling. I had it in my own life. I see if that's when you know you're struggling. If players aren't improving under you, then it's time to look in the mirror, and he needs to look in the mirror. And is there a way back from him? I don't know, but to be fair, his name is that big. Someone will take a chance on Wales and Spain and Italy, but unless he gets this team into the top four, he has to be finished at Spurs, which is, I don't like saying that about the man, and it really, it's not something I like saying, but it's the beginning of the end from. Now remember, last week against Newcastle, he was on the 88th minute, they were 2-1 up and they were in 4th position in Champions League spot, and they've drawn that game and then lost today. So it's fickle business, and he knows that better than anybody else, and he's got to have a long hard look at himself in the mirror, and he's got to ask himself questions. He's made mistakes, and he's made mistakes with senior players. Yeah,
they have very tough fixtures in the last 7 matches they have now for this season. So it is going to be tough for them. What's your gut feeling? They're 6 points off West Ham now. Yeah, as you mentioned during commentary or to Neil after the game, they've got Liverpool in contention there. There's teams above them, Leicester, West Ham, Liverpool are there. It's going to be tough from Chelsea, obviously involved in the top 4 race. What's your gut feeling? Will Tottenham get top 4 or not?
No, I don't see it. I don't see it from that team. That second half performance is that bad. And the point I make about it's like the golf. It's like chasing someone that's a leader. If it's just you and chasing him, that's fine, but when you've got 5 or 6, 7 players in between you, coming from 3 under to 11 under, you just don't do it. Spurs have Liverpool, Chelsea. One of them is not going to drop enough points to allow Spurs to overtake both of them, and West Ham. So if they were just chasing West Ham, yeah, you'd say they have a chance, but they aren't. They're chasing Leicester, West Ham, Chelsea, and Liverpool. They're not going to get ahead of them. 2 of them teams are going to do enough to stay well ahead of Spurs, and I just, it's beginning of the end, I feel.
Where the Spurs team is lacking character, you certainly can't say that about Manchester United. I've mentioned there as well during commentary, they've won 25 points from positions where they were trailing on the road. After conceding the first goal, I should say, on the road, they've won 25 points. That's 8 wins and 1 draw. That is a phenomenal achievement, and I mentioned they score a lot of goals in the last 10 minutes of matches as well. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, while he might be criticised sometimes for the style of play we've seen from United, but they're getting results and they've got character, and that'll take you a long way in football.
Yeah, no, he's away 23 games away from home, not losing is phenomenal. To be fair to him, he's there's times I've been critical of him, but I think you can't take away from the fact that they're the only ones chasing down Man City. They've put City under a little bit of pressure. They have a game in hand, 11 points behind. Win that game, asking questions. City can't take the foot off the pedal, and ultimately City are ghosting through games. They played against Leeds, left a load of guys out because they believe the league is won. Now they're going to have to keep a little look over their shoulder. I'm not saying Manchester will win the league, but Solskjaer deserves huge credit for that. I think I think Manchester United fans have a real dilemma whether it's pragmatic football at times, the two defensive midfielders, McTominay and Fred, sitting in front and protecting them. But that's the way it is. I would like to see them being a bit more on the front foot, as I use that word, and getting the fullbacks forward, etc. But it's working what they're doing, to be fair. It's whether Solskjaer can take the next step and move that team on. And ultimately the biggest problem they're going to have is if Cavani goes, they need an out-and-out centre forward for me, and they haven't had one for such a long time.
So you interestingly, you don't think Greenwood or Rashford could be that, key centre forward that could be banging in 25, 30 goals? I know they don't have that kind of fox in the box movement that Cavani has, but is that not something you think either player could maybe have when he goes?
I think Rashford is best off the left. I think that suits him best, and he's a real threat. He played him off the right today, and to be fair, it didn't really work. There's no doubt Greenwood is a real classy finisher. He's the one that could become that, but he's a young boy. He's not going to lead Manchester United. United have been talking about signing people like Sancho for many. They need an out-and-out striker. Manchester United is that big of a club that they've got to go and throw everything at Haaland and get someone like him in. They have to, or Mbappe to lead the line for them. Now, why is that not in their train of thought? They're the biggest club in the world. They've got to get someone like that in, and then you've got your Rashford and Greenwood coming off them, whether it's off the right or the left. But they've got to make a big statement like that, because the only way they're going to catch Man City anytime soon is by having somebody who's going to get them 20, 25 goals a season. And as much as those two guys can get that, it's not the same focal point as I said, a Haaland or Mbappe gives them. They've got to spend big, and it's time to
I can think of
get
an Argentinian striker that's leaving a club not too far away from them at the end of the season, Sergio Aguero.
Well, Ferguson was always brilliant at that. Remember, he brought Michael Owen in, and he brought Henrik Larsson in. But Van Persie. But that was to supplement somebody else as well. And Cavani should only be supplementing, as I said, a Haaland or Mbappe. And Cavani 3 years ago was the answer to United's problems. He's not now. He's part of the solution, don't get me wrong, and he will want to keep him. His movement off the ball is outstanding. He's the best in the world at it, in that offside position, in behind defenders. But United's problem in that position is bigger, and they need a Van Nistelrooy type striker, Van Persie type striker. And the only two out there for me is Haaland and Mbappe.
There was a bit of a back and forth between Mourinho and Solskjaer in the build-up to this game about the importance of winning trophies. Solskjaer was kind of claiming that it really serves to boost the ego of a manager who's in charge of a team, that it's not really the be-all and end-all. Whereas Mourinho was kind of saying, well, he can think of a former United boss who would totally disagree with Solskjaer, Alex Ferguson, who was all about winning trophies. Does Solskjaer have to win the Europa League trophy? He's not going to, it's an outside chance getting the Premier League. You'd have to say it's not, unless City really explode, or implode, I should say. But what are the chances of him winning the Europa League trophy? They've got Ajax or Roma if they get into the semi-final. And does he need to win that trophy?
I think he needs to win a trophy. I think both have equal points. The game has changed. So, yes, Ferguson was built on trophies. He probably only kept his job by winning an FA Cup. I do believe if Solskjaer doesn't win a trophy, he will be given the start of next season. But he's got to be backed. He's got to, as I said, make a big statement to get to Man City. They've got to go again. So, but Manchester United are about winning trophies. Yes, the League Cup and the FA Cup don't mean as much anymore, but progress is winning trophies. He has to win trophies. He's failed so many times in semi-finals that he has to now make a statement, I think. And I think the benefit of winning, I don't think winning a trophy keeps him in his job, but I think it gives him a shot in the arm, the whole club a shot in the arm, and gives them a chance to kick on next season. And that's why I think it's crucial that you win a trophy this year.
Absolutely. Well, we'll finish up on United there, Vinny, because I know as well you were talking to me pre-match about a young Irish player who's coming through the ranks at Norwich City. We might see a couple of Irish players going down from the Premier League this season. Unfortunately, it looks like John Egan and Enda Stevens will be going down with Sheffield United. But Norwich City will be bouncing straight back up. They, of course, have a couple of Irish players, but one lad who's been making waves over he started their last 3 matches, Andrew Omobamidele. And he's a player you've been watching very closely, and you think he's going to make big waves for Ireland as well.
Yeah, obviously when a player like that comes on the radar, you do the narrative. He does a bit of investigation. Who is he? Where has he come from? And obviously knew that he was playing underage for Ireland. He would have played a lot more now for the 19s but the games were called off because of COVID. So I watched him play for Ireland under 21s against Wales. He was decent. He was okay. Wasn't a great game in the sense of it was in an open training ground as such, but he done okay. But I watched him against Preston in a 1-1 draw, and then subsequently he kept he stayed in the team, and he's been outstanding. He is really, really exciting footballer, and you want to play out from the back. He's so comfortable on it. He looks like I hate giving players tags and that, but he looks like something like a young Rio Ferdinand. He looks that good. He's got bits to learn in terms of his upper body strength could be better, but he's 18 playing against men. But he's so calm on the ball, he's so assured on the ball, his passing range is excellent. I believe he could, I'd like to think the 4 or 5 games now I've watched him, I think he could play in like a number 6. He could be a Declan Rice type player. It'd be interesting to see. So he is one of the most exciting young players I've seen in a long, long time coming through the Irish setup. I wouldn't say he's under the radar, but because it's championship football, people aren't commenting too much on it. My only concern is that he would probably develop so much better if Norwich, ironically, were a championship club for another year. And when he goes to the Premiership, all his mistakes and his little errors could be found out and he could find himself out of team. Hopefully not. But by God, have we got an exciting talent on our hand in this player. He is people say you can't play out from the back and all of this stuff. Our kids are being brought up that way, and he is the exact example of it. Maybe it's too early for our senior international team, a different argument, but our players are being brought up the right way, and he is one of the most outstanding centre halves I've seen in a long, long time in youth and Irish football coming through. He's well on his way to being all that, and I believe he's a great kid as well. Everyone from League tell me he's a great person. That's a big important part of it when you're hearing that about his international managers and that, saying he's a great person. So very excited about him, and hopefully I haven't given him the kiss of death, but really looking forward to seeing him coming through. Yeah, and of course Mark Travers, who became the first Kildare man to get capped in a competitive international since I think it was 1971. We might have another man in Andrew Omobamidele coming in not too far behind him, but it's great to hear, Vinny, and thanks very much for your company this afternoon. Cheers, thank you.